So we talked a lot about collusion, but how is it then that firms in oligopoly actually do compete with one another? And we can divide this very loosely into, on the one hand, pricing strategies, and on the other hand, kind of non-pricing strategies. We said that firms don't always compete on the basis of price because, potentially they end up in a kind of low Nash equilibrium that's hard to escape from and so on. But obviously in the real world, firms do compete on the basis of price. So if we look at pricing strategies, actually over the last few weeks, we've seen a variety of ways in which firms can use pricing. Some of these are in monopoly as well, and there's a lot of overlap between a working monopoly and an oligopoly. So one thing they can do is price discrimination. That's a way in which firms can compete with one another in oligopoly by offering student discounts and peak and off peak and so on. Then that can help them to gain market share in an oligopolistic market. One from year 12, when we talked about cross elasticity demand, we talked about the idea that some firms in multi-product settings, so somewhere where I've got lots and lots of different products, I can make a loss. I can set the price of one, so decrease the price of A, to increase the demand for B, where A and B, are both examples, so both products that I earn. I probably told you about a story about 20, 30 years ago about a guy in Birmingham who owned his shop and he sold baked beans for minus 2p. So you went in and you got a can of baked beans and he gave you 2p. The idea was really, obviously he knew he was going to make a loss on baked beans, but he was assuming that when you went in you'd probably buy some bread and so on to go with them. So there's that type of stuff. I mean, if anybody who kind of watches kind of anything online or on the television, you know about the whole idea of price matching. That's a strategy used, often by supermarkets in oligopoly, where they promise to match the price of their rivals and so on and so forth. So again, that's kind of linked to price leadership, except price leadership can also price leadership can be in a downwards direction, but also price leadership can also be used to restrict competition. So we said actually there are some forms of pricing behaviour that aren't competitive, they are in fact collusive. So price leadership, downwards is competitive, but upwards is collusive, where I'm trying to get other firms to follow my prices to a high level. Other ways in which we could try to restrict competition in the long term, we talked about both predatory pricing, so where I sell below my costs. And my aim here is as a bigger firm in an oligopoly, to try to drive out other firms, drive them out of business. There was some suggestion that the Times newspaper, 20, 30 years ago, for a long time they priced, I think it was on Mondays, they sold it for 10p or something. They're obviously not making any money, and some people suggested that what they were trying to do was to drive a competing newspaper out of business. More moderate, we talked about, is the idea of limit pricing. So this is, again, where you sell, you set price above your costs. So you're not making a loss, but you're setting it below the profit maximizing level to deter entry into the market. So there's a whole variety of different ways in which firms can either increase or decrease competition. They can use pricing strategies to angle and position themselves within the market. But if they don't want to compete on the basis of price, then obviously there are other things that they can try. So there are non-price strategies. And there's, in the real world, there's dozens of these, and you might find it helpful to lump it together under, anybody who's studied business will be aware of the marketing mix, which now seems to have sprouted many different P's, but when I first learned it myself, there were 4 P's, price was one of them. Other P's included then, the product itself, so I can compete through innovation. By launching new products. I can compete through product differentiation, trying to meet consumer needs differently by filling up product space. I can compete simply on the basis of quality, perceived or otherwise. I can use the packaging within that product, to boost market share. And when you're talking about oligopoly, probably the key thing, within it is to make sure that if it's a case study in particular, that you're putting it into the context of that particular case. So there was I think on the on Educast there was a paper that I came across years ago, and it was on ferries, and people were asked about, well, how might a ferry company try and compete with another one, and it was just like the answers that you got were kind of rubbish. Nobody ever thought about, well, what might consumers want from a ferry when they were writing the answer, and the best answers talked about, well, speed or entertainment on board and so on. So in other words, what they were doing is they're trying to apply the principles of competition to a particular context. Promotion itself is obvious. So I can advertise, I can use loyalty cards and so on and so forth. You're all very aware of this. And then the last one is location, or kind of what business students tend to call place. But location is really about distribution. So making sure your product is available, to a wide range of consumers, and that might be obviously it could be your physical location. So some businesses, your physical location matters. For the service sector, you can't order a haircut remotely. You can't drink your coffee at a distance of 10 kilometers. But in others, it's kind of more of, it's kind of distribution really often refers to kind of online availability. So most obviously, do you have a website? Do you have an app? Or if you don't, or maybe you can kind of ride on other people's kind of customer reach. So you can make use of third parties. To sell your product. So obviously examples of that include things like Amazon Marketplace, where it's possible to reach the whole of Amazon's customer set by selling your products on their platform. Or again, Deliveroo, firms like that, which will allow local restaurants that don't want to run their own delivery service, to access consumers. So, as we said, kind of in oligopoly, sometimes firms compete on price, sometimes they don't. If they're not competing on price, then there are a range of other things they can do, although in reality, probably they're going to do a mix of both price and non-price strategies.